Hi, I'm Fiona and I'm a director of Amaze Associates.
And I'm Jennifer McLean. I'm also director of Amaze Associates, and we're a coaching company.
And this is Take the Lead, where we discuss all things pertaining to career and leadership. So, are we getting straight into it today, or have we got anything to talk about?
But I just want to say that actually, Fiona, this is probably one of my favourite subjects.
Oh, wow.
It's so popular. So,
it is. And a lot of people are in it right now, aren't they?
So today, we're talking about the B word.
B word. Oh.
That B word is burnout.
Burnout.
Well, I'm going to start by giving some stats first.
Stats. Okay.
Yeah, I know you love. So there's a research I read from the People Management magazine, which is part of the CIPD, that states that, that burnout amongst UK workers, right, almost doubled in the past year, hitting record levels actually. And research has revealed even more than that. So there's also analysis conducted by Glassdoor, that online recruitment platform, by their research team, and talking about the studies they did on about 382,000 employees, all confidential and everything.
Right.
Between June 21 and May 20
quite a big
last
study,
year.
Isn't it? That's quite
last
big,
year. And they found there's such a negative discussion about this topic, right? And burnout's increased by 48%.
That's terrible.
It's my favourite subject because I've experienced burnout.
Right.
And I'm sure you might have done as well. To some extent. Yeah. So also, there's other stats as well. I know you don't like the stats. I'm going to bore you.
Numbers.
Those who work virtually as well are actually more likely to say that burnout has worsened as a result of the pandemic.
That does not surprise me at all. I think people working at home, it seems like some employers think that people are sort of skiving at home when they're working. But from what I've seen, people work much, much harder, much longer hours when they're at home. They
really do. I've been on both ends, as you know. I've worked remotely. I've worked sort of half in the office, half at home during COVID. So I kind of get that. But it's not just a UK issue, it's a worldwide issue.
Oh, so what is happening?
Well, according to the World Health Organization, occupational burnout, this is what they're calling it, is a syndrome related to chronic work-related stress.
Oh, stress.
We all know what stress feels like.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah. So with symptoms characterized like feeling a loss of energy, feeling exhausted, increasing mental distance from your job as well, and feelings of negativism and cynicism which creeps in related to your job, and also that what they term as reduced professional efficacy. But I would say actually distancing yourself from your job, and actually not actually being as productive as you once were. Even
though you're working, you're not actually getting the work done.
And people have a real difficulty unplugging from their jobs.
Especially if you're at home, right?
Yeah.
Like, for some people, for the very higher ups, I suppose, they've got a nice office, somewhere to work. But there's a lot of people that are just sitting on their bed in their one room that they live in, trying to work, and then that same space is also where they're now supposed to sleep and relax.
In that one space. But also, whether you're working virtually in your home office or if you're back in the office, it makes no odds because you can experience it either way. Yeah. So a message here for the leaders is really to look at your employees and really look at whether or not your team, your co-workers, do they seem more tired? Are they less motivated? Right. Are they producing? Has their productivity actually fallen as well? And are they struggling to stay focused?
And if you're seeing these things, then probably there's signs of burnout.
You're right, absolutely right.
All right, then. So, what do we really need to look for then? What are the signs that burnout is actually happening to you or to your employee?
Well, some of the signs, right? Typically, it's work stress. As we said, it's workplace stress. Workplace stress, whether it's physical environment or emotional, stuff going on in the workplace that you're actually responding to. So the things that are symptoms are things like, are you being cynical at work or critical at work?
Some people do that all the time.
Yeah, they do it all the time, but people might think, oh, that person's always like that.
That's true.
But actually, it could be
a
symptom of burnout.
I'm sure I thought that myself, actually. But now you say that's a good
Well, I'll give you a little bit of story later on. Not right now, but let me just go through some of the
juicy stories.
You love a juicy story. So, okay, do you drag yourself into work? Do you know, oh my God, that Monday morning rolls around and you've got to be, oh my God, you're thinking all the things you haven't done and all the things that are facing you when you come back. Do you drag yourself into work? Do you have trouble getting sort of motivated to get in there?
Not just Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Exactly. That person who used to be on time all the time, or first in the office, last to leave, all that kind of stuff, right? That person's now late.
Yeah.
That person's leaving early. Yeah. They're looking at a clock and it ticks to 4 o'clock, because maybe in some flexible working environments, that's when you can leave, the earliest you can leave. 2 minutes, the bag's packed.
They're out the door.
Out the door. And then there's, are you irritable, or impatient with your colleagues, but also impatient with your clients as well. I've worked in places where the receptionist, oh my God, you don't want to talk to that person in the morning. And it's not because they've just rolled out of bed the wrong way. It could be, again, a symptom of burnout. Are you finding it hard to concentrate? Yeah, it's a key one. Are you finding your energy is depleted? You feel less productive? Are you really satisfied or don't feel that you're really achieving very much?
Right. Even though you're working and working, you don't feel like you're actually getting...
Your real sense of, God, I don't like this job. It's not necessarily, it's not about the job sometimes, but it's about how you're feeling.
How you feel
around it. Yeah. And then it leads on to that disillusionment about the job. You really hate your job. Yeah. And then, are you medicated, self-medicating? Through food?
Yeah.
Alcohol. I know.
Definitely can relate to that.
And there's people that I know and people I've known that have gone home and opened a bottle of wine. Yeah. And
before you know it, that's finished that bottle, isn't it?
It's gone. That kind of self-medication I'm talking about. Yeah. And your sleep habits change. You're waking up in the middle of the night, thinking about work. Well, that's part of it as well.
On the other end, you can't get to sleep at night because your head is full up.
And do you have things like unexplained headaches and stomach and bowel problems? All these physical things are symptoms as well. Now I'll tell you my little story. My little story is this. Well, it's not really a little story. I didn't realise I was going through burnout. And I won't mention the organisation I work for. But I joined this organisation really enthusiastic. And I kind of got a vibe. The first few, literally within the first month, I got a vibe. It's this right move, but actually, it was a good move for me in terms of that. It was local. It was ticked all the boxes in terms of my skills, and actually gave me a bit of a challenge because it was an area that I've never worked in before. After sort of 5 years, I started to feel really disillusioned because I was being hit by lots of stuff that other colleagues were carrying. They'd bring we used to do this back in the day. They had all their gripes. It was a constant thing. Initially, I thought it was just them sharing with me. So well, actually, I wasn't there then. But this is now. Let's try and move forward. I'm trying to be really pragmatic about talking to them and listening to them. And then I found that it was really bearing down on me. I was the first person in the office. I was organised, as you know, I'm quite an organised person. Talk to people, get to know them, really develop rapport. But I began to find it really difficult because some of the same stuff kept on rewinding like a tape.
And it can just overwhelm you.
And I started getting headaches, which I never got. My thyroid started to act up.
Oh my goodness.
That was when I had my thyroid incident. And they do say thyroid issues can be triggered by stress as well, high levels of stress. There was stuff going on, obviously, in my personal life. I had some bereavements in the family and what have you. But it was just, the work just was so draining. And mornings I dreaded getting up in the morning, going to work. The confidence that I once had about doing like a talk, I felt really anxious about doing all of that. And it was just this depletion. I didn't feel I was doing a good job.
You're right.
Even though people would say I was doing a good job, I didn't feel that I was.
You start questioning yourself, what you're actually doing.
Yeah, but also what started to creep in was negativity. I started being quite cynical. And I used to have a good moan at work with what I would say at the time, trusted colleagues.
Right.
You know, in this circle, you can say what you want.
Say what you
but
want.
I found it was leaking out.
Yeah. More than you would have expected.
And I felt like I was sabotaging.
Oh,
almost like you're sabotaging yourself and sabotaging your work. And it was just so exhausting. And the worst part of it was going home to my loved ones and just repeating the same stuff, rehashing the same stuff over and over. This has happened. That's happened.
Everything negative.
Yeah, it was just a lot. And I was working long hours, had a big team, and lots of issues in different teams, and we're firefighting all the time. And when you've got that heavy workload, let me tell you, I had no social life. I'd come home and work through the night. Remember the time I had to come and do a report, and I worked all the way through the night.
Yes, I do remember. I remember thinking, oh my God, how do you even do that? Right.
With hubby giving me cups of coffee to keep me awake. That's not healthy.
That's not good.
I wasn't doing self-care.
No.
You know, I was prioritising everybody else except myself. And it was really hard. It was a hard time. But anyway, that's my little story.
That's your juicy story. No, but it's useful to share because some of the things that we're talking about, those symptoms, they're the sort of things that you say, they think it's something else. You're not going to think, I'm in burnout. Yeah. But it's really good that people understand that, you can have those symptoms, but if you start to get a roll of those symptoms and it's ongoing and that feeling, I think you really expressed it really well, where you said it was just exhausting. It's that feeling where you've got nothing left to give, but you're still going. You're still doing it. Yeah.
Running on empty.
It's
and
important.
all these interactions, because it's your physical, the environment, the work environment. That time I was obviously working in the office, and I felt assaulted, if you like, death by 1,000 cuts. I called
that it is
because lots of things are coming at me, and that really.
And because you're the manager, you can kind of feel like, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. They're supposed to be able to come and tell me, but actually, there is a line there, isn't there? There is, but
not so much that is one thing, but also as a manager, where do you go?
Where do you go?
Right,
absolutely.
Where do you? Because you're expected to be the one that you get paid enough to take this. Actually, you don't pay.
I've heard that said so many times. Well, they're getting paid, but let them sort it out.
You don't pay me enough
not for that.
to experience this stuff.
No.
And when I went for support, when I spoke to my director, and their response was kind of like, deer in the headlights, didn't know what to do. Didn't know what to do, and I thought, you can't help me.
No, not useful at all. And you know what? Okay, that you don't know what to do, but then find out. Then don't just manage me like we it's important. You're managing your staff, and you need to manage me too.
And I suppose for me, it was a good thing that I was one of those people that always try and find a solution. Right. Although I wasn't doing all the self-care stuff, as I said earlier, but I wanted to find out what was going on for me. And I started to look at what the factors were, like lack of control. I was missing deadlines. I was had lots of heavy workload, and I thought, I was looking even at my job expectation. Is this what's really expected of me? How do I kind of get some clarity? Because lots of projects were being thrown on to me, which you were like, okay, I was doing all this additional stuff. I was managing not just my own area of work and group of staff, but I also had vacancies, and I was covering for another vacancy as well as doing my own
that's
job.
Too much. And it really highlights the fact that manager or not a manager, whoever you are, you need to know, where is that line? Yeah. Where do I get to say, actually, I can't do this? No, I can't do this.
Has that happened to you though? That kind of sense of like, oh my God, I'm just doing too much.
Yeah. Not necessarily in work, but it spills over into work, doesn't it? And then, like you said, what you do, then you start missing things or not quite keeping up. Yeah. And then when you're not keeping up, you're thinking, well, I'm not really good at this then, am I? And you start questioning yourself. So I've definitely experienced that too. And experienced it from the outside looking in with someone else, where totally burnt out, but still pushing through, but almost in a state of panic all the time. That stress level gets so high that it becomes untenable, but still because you have to, because it's your job, you keep going. It's really difficult.
I think we come, I can speak for both of us. So we come from a sort of background where, do your best, work harder.
Exactly.
To prove yourself, to prove your worth, all of those
My
kind of
daughter's
things.
always saying to me, Mum, you're always just pushing through, aren't you? And I go, I suppose, because that's what we were taught to do.
Yeah. I mean, or do a job, you have to do a job well or not at all. All those phrases we grew up with.
Yeah. And you embody them, don't you? Without even realising that.
Because I remember saying to myself once, I'm not going to let this place break me.
Right.
I'm just not going to let it break me. Yeah. And I thought through it, because a lot of what I was experiencing was dysfunctional workplace dynamics. It wasn't so much bullying, but it was just the fact they didn't like a woman like me being in such a senior position. Yeah. And it was a constant kind of
and although they can't actually say those words to you, it comes out in other ways, doesn't it?
Exactly. Other ways. You pick up the as I call the subtext.
Yes.
And all of that. And that goes to people who feel that their bosses are micromanaging them as well. So they feel like, because was watching me, or being undermined by colleagues as well. And that all contributes to job stress and to actual burnout.
So what's going to happen to us then when we realise we're in this position, but we don't do anything about it? What happens?
Well, before we even get to that bit, there's things about looking at what activities you're doing your job. What extreme activity, what's your workload look like? Are you doing monotonous things? Is your workload chaotic? Everybody's been through so much change.
True.
And COVID has impacted us everywhere. People are doubling down and doing jobs of 2-3 people, and I know how that feels. That I've actually done that. There's also the lack of social support. You're isolated at work. You've got no one to talk to.
Let alone if you're working at home.
You've got no allies. You might go home to an empty house. It might just be you. Or your family don't actually want to listen to the same old stuff again. Oh, she's always saying that. The question always flies back is, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do about it?
At that point, you don't know.
No, because you're literally drowning at that point, aren't you? You're just about surviving. So what do you do? And this inability to unplug from work because you feel so guilty. You feel so, I've got to do this thing, even if I have to stay up all night to do it, or work my weekends, not see my friends. And you run this script over and over again all the time. You go home, you literally rehash what you're experiencing. It's a hard situation to be in, definitely.
And there's risk factors involved. You can have a heavy load. That's really difficult because stress from that. I'm not going to tell people they're going to have a heart attack and stroke now, or be depressed.
But you're building up these risk
health factors
that are.
Even diabetes is a stress risk factor. So. Especially, people working in caring professions, all of those people are really on that edge of burnout.
It's terrible to find yourself in that position, and also, like you said, where there's no support, where there's a lack of support. But then it means that somehow you need to find that solution, don't you? Because if there's no one there rescuing you,
well, you have to rescue yourself.
You need to rescue yourself.
Which is what I had to do. I mean, I knew I was experiencing excessive stress. I knew I was fatigued. I knew I had insomnia. I knew I felt sad. I felt angry. I felt irritable.
Everything all at once.
I did not use alcohol or substance. It's never been my bag.
Well, that's lucky.
Which is a good thing. Yeah. And I don't have high blood pressure or anything like that, but I do have a thyroid issue, and I was getting headaches a lot. I remember getting headaches, which I never normally get headaches. So you have to first recognize the symptoms. How's it affecting you? How's it affecting your physiology?
Absolutely.
And also your mental health is so important to keep good mental health.
I mean, that's the thing, that subject that's really out there right now, and hopefully it means that people are becoming more aware of their own mental health and picking up the triggers for themselves and knowing when they're. The thing is really to try and catch yourself before you get to the edge, right, and try and do something about it. So if we're going to do something about it, how are we going to handle this then?
Well, I think you've just got to start to take action, right? You've got to start somewhere and evaluate what your options are. What can I do? I would say go and see a GP.
I think so. That's always the first port of call, I think. Yeah.
You can also, obviously your work, right? And we're talking to people who are in work. But you can also go to your employee assistance, occupational health.
Because a lot of the time those things are in place, but we just don't know about that. So it's good to go and seek that kind of information.
Yeah, but people are really shy. They shy away from going to occupational health because they think it's punitive.
Yeah.
I think somehow...
And also there's something wrong with you. What's wrong with you? You don't want to admit, but there is something wrong, and it's not a bad thing. You just need to go and get the help and get the support.
Yeah, occupational health is there to actually help you. Right,
yes.
And I've had to say this to people before. I actually referred myself to occupational health. This is where my manager didn't support me.
A bold move, but good.
Yeah, I had to. And then you seek support, so you've got that. You look out, you find people that you can actually speak to, whether that's people at work or people outside.
Yeah, you definitely need
some organisation that can support you.
And there are lots of those organisations out there.
And also the self-care needs to kick in.
Yeah.
Find activities that are going to keep you calm and make you feel calmer and relaxed. You know, people do yoga, they do Tai Chi. I like to go in my garden personally.
Yes.
Right? I like to.
They do say that. It's proven, isn't it, that being outside in nature is good for you mentally, for your mental health. And I know sometimes, sometimes even for me to think about what are those things that I want to do that make me feel that way? Because you get so stuck in that cycle of work and other people and what do they need. Yeah. You haven't even really taken time to think about what it is for yourself that you need to do.
We've made work the total and absolute focus.
Right.
And yes, we all need money, and I get that. Look at the bills.
Let's not even talk about that right now.
We're not talking about that today.
Yeah, not today, but it is an important
factor.
It is an important factor. Yeah, definitely.
But we have to also, if we are not healthy, we cannot do what we need to do.
That's what I said that to so many people. That the main thing about this is it's not that you're not meeting your other obligations. If you don't look after yourself, there's nothing else that you can do. Yeah. You have got to do that first. It's just go to the doctor and talk to them. Go to someone at work, like you said, go to HR or occupational health and talk to them and just get the ball rolling. You don't have to do everything at the same time, but just take that first step.
I mean, I know it comes up in our coaching sessions with clients all the time, where they actually come with a different matter they want to work on, but ultimately when we look at it, actually
as we get through it, get to the point of it,
you're burning out,
absolutely,
or you're in cinders right now.
Absolutely. And actually they need to take a different step before we can actually continue and actually help. There are other things that they need to do, and we've done that, haven't we? We've referred people to their GPs or to other counselling services or whatever. But yes, it's really important to get a grip and understand yourself and what is happening to you. Definitely.
We definitely need to do that. Mindfulness, that's a big thing at the moment. You're looking at mindfulness and trying to quiet your mind and trying to just use that as a tool to bring good thoughts into your brain. There is something great about mindfulness and visualization, just as
affirmations as well.
Calming mechanism. And sleep.
Oh my goodness.
That's what we always say.
That is such a weird thing because everyone has to sleep, right? Yeah. And some people only need a couple of hours and some people need lots. But maybe it's in the last few years that I really understood that it's important to get enough sleep.
But can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Are you getting enough sleep?
Well, not right now, that's for sure. I definitely not. It's just something I struggle with all the time. It's not that I can't fall asleep, I can fall asleep, but it's actually going to bed at the right time so that you can get up at the time that you need to. Yeah. It's so important because your body is doing all kinds of repair work during that time. So even that single step, make sure you get 7 or 8 hours of sleep. I can't remember the last time I had 8 hours of sleep in the night.
We're talking about burnout, right?
I know.
We're talking about sleep. And I know that I had to check myself.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I started doing my walking last year, the year before, run up and down the stairs in that building and, doing the COVID support stuff. But that kind of pushed me to do more walking and kind of as a de-stressor, looking at nature as I'm walking and just not thinking about anything. But it's a sleep that I had to actually really kind of really get under.
It's the thing that you don't even think about most of the time.
Because when you sleep, you get refreshed. Your brain processes all this stuff. It kicks out the rubbish and it leaves you.
That's right. And you can tell when you wake up in the morning, isn't it? It's like it's not waking up. Are you waking up and you go like, oh, like, or are you waking up and thinking, okay, right, I can, let me see, what do I need to do today? But, you know, you're starting to get into action straight away. Like,
and are you getting good nourishment? You're eating well.
Right. All right, let's not talk about it.
We will talk about it.
We will talk about it.
You eat well anyway. I've seen you.
I'm not bad. So I can make changes, but I'm not too bad. But you're right, because nourishment, you know, we eat because we like the food. I mean, a lot of us are really into it. There's a lot of foodie stuff going on right now on TikTok and Instagram and all of that stuff. But we don't only eat because we love that. We eat because we need to get something from that food. Yeah. And that is so important, to get the right balance, right? Yeah.
I'm really glad you mentioned social media. Because I think sometimes people need to unplug.
Oh yeah.
Plug from work and plug from media just for a short while. Just mean you come off it totally. If it's your thing, it's your thing. But sometimes you can see stuff on there that doesn't actually correlate with your life and make you feel worse. So, you know, move away from it a little bit.
I think that's a good point. Yeah. Something maybe we will talk about that another time. But we have to be aware in this world that certain things are set up in a way to grab your attention, and social media is one of those. It's set up psychologically to make you scroll and scroll and scroll, even if you're not, it might be nothing related to your life, as you said, nothing related to your life, but because you're in it, you're going to keep on doing it. So you have got to really be strict, just for a little while. Like you said, it doesn't have to be like for weeks on end without it, but you know, each for a certain amount of time each day, just get away from it, because it's not real.
And we know that, you know, I've heard people talk about toxic work environment. I've experienced that, you know, and employers need to understand that there's causes and impacts of employee burnout, and they're evolving. Used to be discussed as you know, an issue that only millennials had. Well, actually, that's nonsense.
That's not true.
You know?
Yeah.
It affects everybody because it's pervasive since COVID. Yeah. And actually, I think it's always been there, but COVID's kind of shone a light on it.
Yeah. And we didn't have the word for it before, did we?
And it's impacting on all ages and all types of workers across the piece. And the future does remain uncertain with burnout. But one thing is really clear: employers cannot ignore it.
Yeah, I agree.
At all.
I agree.
And there
some
are things they can
workplaces
do
now,
about it.
Yeah, there are some workplaces now where it's a thing that they talk about. They have sessions about it, mindfulness, and they give their staff information about places they can go, you know, to get help or whatever. So it is out there. But you're right. I think employers also have to take some responsibility for making sure their staff.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on, you know, obviously having well-being packages and benefits in place. But it's actually not just having them in place, but actually championing them and really making it comfortable and accessible for employees to actually go to them and not making it be like, oh, guess who's gone to so and so. Actually, no, it's a real important piece of a bit of benefit that employees can give employees. If you're feeling a bit stressed, you can have a counselling session, you can go and do a bit of mindfulness, you can go and have a little low yoga session, you can go and do swimming or something like that.
Yeah,
you know, so it's not always about having counselling and some kind of psychotherapy.
And other things like, you know, all these after work meetings need to happen, or these meetings need to happen? Do they need to go on? Do they need to be this long? Do they, you know, think about that sort of thing. Can people actually get home? Is there some other way that this information can be shared or whatever?
Well, we've got a podcast coming up around meetings and how to have better meetings. So we'll probably touch a bit on that.
We'll pick
that
up.
Just to go back to what else employees can actually do. You can create some flexibility in the scheduling, you know, encourage time off. Because a lot of what's the data also shows is that lots of employees are not taking their annual leave, for goodness sake.
That's true. You know, especially if they're can't afford to go away, as it were. It's like they don't think about taking the time off, but that is so important.
But even when they go away, they do take the time off, right? Whether that's personal time, bank holidays, but some of them are working in that time. So give your staff permission to actually switch off their phones, not check their emails. And there's another thing about emails. Why are you sending me an email at 6:30 in the morning? Exactly.
You
know, why are you sending me an email at 3 o'clock in the morning? That's the sort of stuff you need to dissuade your staff from actually doing.
That's right.
Because that means they're not sleeping.
That's right.
They're worried about
why
stuff.
are you working at that time of the morning?
Yeah. And if deadlines need to be, you know, negotiated, try and negotiate them. You know, it's about you as an employer, employee taking ownership and say, actually, you know what, I'm feeling this way.
Yeah.
So let me see how I can rejig some of this so I don't continue to feel like that and go down that slippery slope to burnout. Right. And employers can actually say, you know what, I've been watching you and I've noticed that, you know, your productivity is slightly slipping. Can we have a conversation? I kind of want to find out what's going on with you. And
like you said, not punitive, in a punitive way, but in a I want to support you way.
That's it. Yeah. And also reassure staff it's okay to prioritise out of work stuff that they're doing, you know, and take breaks. When you're working from home, it's hard to take breaks.
Oh, so much. Definitely.
Breaks.
They have to get away from the computer or the desk or whatever, go outside, get up, go and do something. You have to. And take your leave. You need to take your leave.
And I think the last thing I'd add in there would be really about the managers and leaders and employers modelling that behaviour, that positive behaviour. Because sometimes you say, yeah, we've got all of this stuff for you, you know, so there's no reason why you should be edging towards burnout. But actually, the person who's managing me, right,
absolutely,
is not agreeable.
I've seen that where all of these things are in place and it's all right. And the work time is 9 to 5 and, you know, but actually nobody leaves at that time. So you think, oh my God, I can't get up and go and leave at this time. And everyone's sitting at their desk till 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock or whatever time it is. So I need to make it look like I'm doing the same thing. So actually, it's not productive, is it?
Yeah, because, and we also remember that leaders and managers, CEOs, wherever you are in this chain, you know, you're also a human. And you also, burnout has no friends.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't.
It'll come for you.
Big time. Big time.
And it's important for you to actually manage that. So, and also the culture of the organisation has to support.
It has to.
Employees
around. It can't be that you've got all these things in place and then the minute someone does it, it's like, oh. Yeah. Oh.
Well, I mean, there's some great companies out there that allows, you know, that kind of breakout time. You can go and, you know, have a snack here and do sort of fun things, you know. But they're very few and far between.
Very few and far between. They're very hard to get into as well.
So, but really encourage that kind of. Yeah. I would say, be really understanding and try to get onto the skin of what's going on with your employees and just check in.
Yeah,
with
make
them.
sure they're all
even
right.
if you're doing meetings, let's do a check-in.
I agree. Because at the end of the day, whatever the business of the organisation is, you need your staff. If they're not there and they're not operating in the right way, then your business is not going to flourish.
Exactly.
So important.
And also, if you know, service industries, you know, you're not able to service your customers because you can have lots of staff absence.
Which is happening right now.
A lot of people just saying, I'm done.
I can't do this. Yeah. So many staff vacancies. Yeah. Then you can't operate.
Because ultimately, it's what I did. I said I was done.
Yeah, I'm done. and here we are.
I was done. And I just said, you know what? I'm not a tree. I can actually move. So I moved. So some takeaways then.
Some takeaways, I think it's been an interesting discussion, I think. And I think one of the main things is to just learn to understand what the symptoms are of burnout and don't dismiss them as, oh, it's just this, or I always feel like that. Really, really take time to check in and understand what is happening with yourself. And then prioritise yourself. Prioritise your well-being. Make sure that you look after yourself. I know you probably hear it all the time, but it's so important. If you are not well, then you can't do anything for anyone else. So make sure, if you're experiencing any of the symptoms that we talked about, make sure that you go to your GP or you go to your HR or your occupational health and get the support that you need. And make sure, if you're an employer, that you keep an eye on your staff. Especially, as we said, with remote working, it's so much more difficult to really see those signs. So you need to be really vigilant and make sure that you're understanding how they're working and whether or not they're performing in the way that they should do and what you can do to support them in that. And then just cultivate a really positive mindset. I think both of us come from that school of thought. And I know people like to think, oh, it's all airy-fairy. No, it isn't. It isn't. Because if you wake up every day and go like, oh, I can't do this, I hate this, I hate that, that is your day done for you. But if you get up in the morning, it doesn't mean that you don't feel that way, but you try to look on the more positive side. You try to look for a positive aspect and you just try to have a more positive conversation with yourself. It will change your day and it will change how you feel. It really does work. So please try that. And then, is that all? I think that's it. Anything else to add to that? Any other takeaways?
I think for me, it's just important to continue to talk about burnout.
Keep the conversation going.
And talk about what people can do to help themselves, but also impressing on employers. They have a duty of care.
They do.
And some forget they have a duty of care. It's enshrined in law, actually. Yeah. So, help your staff so you can actually have a more thriving, healthy workforce. Absolutely. And we can't do everything for staff, because there's obviously some personal issues that play into workplace stress.
You have to deal with those individually.
It's about making sure the door is open to access some of those well-being benefits for the staff. And so continue. So the B word.
The B word. It wasn't a bad word. The B word is burnout. And I hope you've learned a bit more about what that looks like and what you can do about it. So that was Take the Lead. And I'm Fiona.
And I'm Jennifer from Amaze Associates.
And we'll see you later.